With reports Aaron Rodgers is in full control of what's going on in New York, this season becomes a referendum on what the Packers did and didn't do, as well as a referendum on the Aaron Rodgers way. Would it have been a better one than the path the Packers took? Plus, Aaron Rodgers' departure already has Bears players talking crazy with their chests out after they got their butts kicked, like, boy, you better run. We're going to talk about that on an absolute meat and potatoes Locked On Packers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. So a new report from Albert Breer offered some insight into the workings of the Jets right now. And Aaron Rodgers has taken center stage. He is running meetings, or if not running meetings, a big part of meetings. They are running the offense he wants to run. I don't want to get into the wisdom of that, though I don't think it's very smart to go back to 1997 Kansas City Chiefs, Marty Schottenheimer offense, though that seems like that's what they want to do. That's the reporting. It's like, oh yeah, they're going to do the thing that Nathaniel Hackett's dad did. And it's like, okay, well, so you want to be Marty Schottenheimer, the biggest choke artist coach of the last 30 years? Okay, like if that's what you want to do, that's fine. That's a different thing. The Packers have hemorrhaged players to the New York Jets. Adrian Amos becoming the latest. But it's not just Aaron Rodgers, Tim Boyle, Allen Lazard, 3 receivers, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Malik Taylor, Billy Turner, and now Adrian Amos, plus Nathaniel Hackett. Like, it is crazy what is going on there. He is in control of what they are doing. This is a Packers show, not a Jets show. So why are we bringing it up? Well, this is what Aaron Rodgers wanted. When he stood in front of the media back in 2021 in the Summer of Honesty, at that press conference, that famous or infamous or maybe both press conference that he had. And he said, I really would have liked to have input on these outgoing veterans. By the way, let's just put that charade aside for a second, because let's be 100 about this. Aaron Rodgers was out the minute the Packers drafted Jordan Love. He just was waiting for the right time. As soon as that happened, that was a betrayal, and it was over. Even though that's exactly how Aaron Rodgers got his job, we don't have to dive back into the irony of all of that. But what he wanted was the power, and he saw what Tom Brady did in 2020. Not a coincidence of what happened in 2021. He saw what Tom Brady did in 2020 when Aaron Rodgers and the Packers could not beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, despite winning the turnover battle, which they always win when they win the turnover battle under Matt LaFleur. That's just that is what they've always done. That's what they did the whole tenure, even into last year for the most part, although not as much last year as the first 3 years of Matt LaFleur's tenure, of course. He saw Matthew Stafford go win a title. Now, Matthew Stafford didn't have the same sort of control in LA. Tom Brady got to bring Gronk. He got to bring in Antonio Brown. He got to change the offense. He got to run the show. They built a team around Tom Brady, and not just Tom Brady, the quarterback, Tom Brady, the player evaluator. He got to pick a receiver, by the way, Jalen Darden, a guy who turned out to not be good, is no longer even on the Bucs team. Doesn't look like an NFL player based on the sample size and the evidence we have. So whether or not this is a smart play, whether or not it was actually Tom Brady, the genius personnel man and scheme lord, it looks like what we know now, Byron Leftwich, not a very good offensive coordinator. Rob Gronkowski, one of the greatest tight ends to ever play, came out of retirement after a year off with some fresh legs, played some really key snaps for them. It just so happens that Tom Brady's buddy, and in this case, buddies, are two of the best players of their generation. Aaron Rodgers' buddies are Randall Cobb and Al Lazard. No offense to those guys. They're not going to be wearing yellow jackets at the end of their career. Rob Gronkowski certainly is. And Antonio Brown, if he hadn't lit his career on fire, might also be and probably deserves it, irrespective of the off-the-field stuff. Or at least history says he'll get in. I don't know about, like, his on-field play deserves it. Whether or not he deserves to get in, I think we can litigate. Like, for example, Darren Sharper, never in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, regardless of what happened on the field. Not apples to apples, but you get the idea. The Packers didn't do exactly what the Jets are doing. Rodgers is controlling the offense. And whatever shots he wants to take about how excited he is to come in every day, of course he's excited to come in every day. They're doing what he wants. They're doing what he wants. Everything he wants. Everyone they want him to sign, they at least tried to sign. The only reason they didn't sign Odell is because Baltimore was more desperate than them to please their quarterback. The Packers never bent over backward to do that. The only time they even approached doing it was bringing in Randall Cobb when they felt like they needed to do that. And by the way, they just drafted Amari Rodgers. They also saw the value in bringing in a slot type receiver. They just drafted Jaden Reed. Clearly, this team wanted to do something about that slot receiver position. It was a moment when the intentions of both the team and the quarterback aligned. The Packers didn't do what Aaron Rodgers wanted them to do, which is why ultimately he's playing in New York. If it works awesome in New York, if they go and go to the AFC Championship and lose 38-35 to Patrick Mahomes, if they go to the Super Bowl, if they win the Super Bowl, of course, the Aaron Rodgers method is validated. But if they don't, the Packers will be vindicated. Their methodology will be vindicated. Now, we've seen this work. Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford, two quarterbacks in a row, left, went to new situations and won in year one. And in the case of Tom Brady, in large part because they acquiesced to him at every move. He left New England, let's not forget, in part because Bill Belichick got sick of acquiescing even to the level that he did, which was not to the level that he got the Buccaneers to in Tampa. And it seems like pretty clearly he got Bruce Arians pushed out. He got a coach essentially fired. Now he's still with the organization, still getting paid, whatever. But if Tom Brady wanted Bruce Arians to have been the coach, Bruce Arians would have stayed the coach. He didn't. So like Tom Brady, not a choir boy in all this either. This is not even a value judgment on this approach. It is to say, though, what happens this season is going to color, and not just like because of narrative and media, whatever. No, it should color the way that we look at the last 5, 10 years of Aaron Rodgers, maybe going back to 2014. He wins the second MVP. I think in the mind of Aaron Rodgers, he's going, I'm it. I'm him. And he was. You should be listening to me. I am this franchise. So if I want to keep Clay Matthews when he's past his prime, like just do it. If I want to keep Randall Cobb, if I want to keep James Jones, if I want to keep Jordy Nelson, just do it. That is what he's saying. I'm not advocating for that position. I think GM and quarterback are very different jobs. I don't buy I felt like I was, my voice wasn't being heard, all this stuff. Like, no, he wanted to be in charge. He wanted them to come to him and ask him all these questions, even though publicly he's going, I understand, that's not my role. I try and stay out of that stuff. Look, what Aaron Rodgers says publicly, he will not allow himself to be held to those words. And it seems like that's probably true privately as well. But for the Packers, What happens in New York matters. And I know that Jets fans are going to get mad. They're going to get all huffy. Oh, well, this is going to... What happens in New York this season is hugely important to the Green Bay Packers, not just for the draft pick reasons, but because of the path they chose not to take. It's the path New York chose very clearly to take, and they are leaning in whole hog. We'll see which one works out better. I don't think it is as simple as if the Jets are better than the Packers this year, that's proof that the Jets' plan is better. One will have Aaron Rodgers and one will not. And one had one of the best defenses in the league last year and one did not. So those things are a little different, though. As Bill Barnwell pointed out recently, the Jets were the healthiest defense in the league last year. They already had an injury to their starting safety, Chuck Clark. It sounds like it's going to be serious, which is why they signed Adrian Amos. We're going to talk about the Adrian Amos bit at the end of the show. But if the Jets succeed, then it will make the last few years an even bigger failure in Green Bay than they already are, precisely because it will show that what Aaron Rodgers wanted was actually a better way. And if they don't succeed at an extremely high level, I think it will be very good evidence that the Packers were vindicated. Now, what is that level? I don't know. I think we're going to have to wait. It's one of those things, like, I'll know it when I see it. Everyone thought with like baseline mediocre quarterback play, they were a playoff team last year, so they have to do more than that because Rodgers has to be better than that. This team has to compete. They have to go and beat a team like the Bills, the Bengals, or the Chiefs in the playoffs. And they can't get embarrassed by one of those teams if they win, like, let's say they beat the Bills in a playoff game and then go get spanked by the Bengals or the Chiefs. Can't do that. That does not count. Because that model, we saw it. I think there are ways to be vindicated without going to or winning the Super Bowl, but it depends on what that looked like. Again, if you get to the AFC Championship game and lose, it better be because you lost to Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, and you lost 41-38 or 31-35. Something like that. This season has huge impacts on recent history in Green Bay, on their approach. And that's why it is something to watch. It is something to monitor. Because they're going in. They're trying the experiment. We'll see how it goes for them. All right, we're going to get to more on our show today because the Bears, man, they're talking crazy. But this means something, and I wrote about it today for the Leap. I want you to read that if you can, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make your way to FanDuel because right now new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. That's right. They will just give you money back. Isn't that amazing? That's not normally how these things work. Usually you place a bet, you don't get it. Sorry. Well, this is what a no-sweat first bet means. And guess what? The Packers win total is still 7.5. Now, you're having to pay a little bit more juice on the over. Now, it's minus 115 to bet the over, minus 105 to bet the under. And so I think we can infer what's going on with the markets right now, but that number is still sitting there at 7.5. I would go get it while you can. I already have it. I have it in my pocket. I have the Packers to win the NFC North already in my pocket. In fact, I have doubled down on that one. I have multiple bets on the Packers to win the NFC North. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. There's no better place to bet on all of the action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to place a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA, which is now over. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first season, your first listen every day. Everydayers. This week on the show, mini camps. We're talking about mini camps. After a couple 2-3 days of mini camps, some interesting things to talk about coming up this week.
How different is it going to be now that Aaron Rodgers is somewhere else?
I wish he played one more year with Green Bay, honestly. We went up there and we played a pretty good game, but they got away from us at the end, obviously, and they won, but their fans are really so. Yeah, I wanted to go back up there, and I wanted to play him, and I wanted to beat them, and I wanted him to be there so you can see it. But the fact that he's gone now, I mean, it's cool. I guess it's better for him not to be here, But yeah, man, I'm ready to take it over. I mean, it's a good time to be a Bears fan. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
That was Justin Jones, Chicago Bears defensive lineman. And I know some of you are saying, who's that? I wouldn't say that. I think that's rude. I also know who he is, but I get the bit. I certainly appreciate everyone involved in that bit. It is interesting to me. Aside from, the fact that the Bears have won one game against the Packers since Justin Jones has been in the NFL, or that good game that they supposedly played against the Packers in Green Bay. They were losing 24-7 at halftime and ultimately lost 27-10. Justin Fields had 70 yards and an interception in that game. Aaron Jones averaged almost 9 yards a carry in that game. Aaron Rodgers averaged 9 yards an attempt in that game. The Packers beat the crap out of the Chicago Bears twice. And they're talking crazy. And that's what happens when the bully leaves. When the bully leaves, and Aaron Rodgers, make no mistake, the bully, we know he owns the Chicago Bears. He, for years, destroyed the Detroit Lions. Last year, did not. But when the bully leaves, the bullied start to get a little chesty. Now, this is true of Bears fans always, right? Bears fans, no fan base gets greater delusions of grandeur around this time of year than the Chicago Bears. This is a 3-win football team acting like they just won the Super Bowl because they traded the number 1 pick for DJ Moore. Like, they really think they're going to go win 10 games and they're going to take over the North. Justin Jones said he wishes Aaron Rodgers, who owns the Chicago Bears, was still playing. He doesn't. And you know why? Because if Aaron Rodgers was still on this team, they would beat the Bears twice again this year, because that is what they always do. But it's a reminder. There is a different feeling about the Packers right now. They are seen as vulnerable. They are no longer the undisputed kings in the North. Now, don't let the Bears co-opt that phrase. It's hilarious that they think, oh, Justin Fields, the new king in the North. Like, win like 5 games. Throw for 300 yards in a game, Justin Fields, please. Like, let's start small. But this is a good reminder. I hope Matt LaFleur is showing that clip to Justin Jones. I hope he's showing that to his team. Because there are enough players on this team from when they were a 13-win team who are going to go, what is this? Who is this guy to be talking like this? A 3-win team is talking crazy about the team that has absolutely owned this division for 30 straight years? This is what's happening right now? But Aaron Rodgers, not in the building. Brett Favre, not in the building. It's Jordan Love. And they smell blood in the water. So it is up to the Packers this season to prove they are not chum. To prove they are not the last gasp, dying breath fish for the Sharks to come devour. Now, LOL at the idea that the Bears and the Vikings and the Lions are sharks. Because, no. But this would never have happened if Aaron Rodgers were still around. They would never be like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play Aaron Rodgers again. And maybe they would, but it would have seemed it would have seemed even more stupid, honestly. But this is lame. Because it is like getting your butt kicked and having the bully get up and walk away and go home and not think about you, and you say, yeah, you better run. Oh, I could have taken him. The sun got in my eye. I slipped. Give me a break. But this is what's going on right now. The Chicago Bears have convinced themselves, not the fan base, not their delusional fans. The team has convinced themselves they can go win the North. The Vikings, they don't even have any players, and they think they can go win the North. And the Lions are the favorites to win the North. With Jared Goff and Kooky Dan Campbell and Jahmyr Gibbs at the top of the draft. That team, they think they're the favorites because they are. This cannot stand. But it is evidence of what is going on right now around the NFC North. They think the Packers have fallen off. They are fading Green Bay. If that doesn't fire this team up, if they can't find a reason to come out every week and play with pride in ways that we didn't see them do the last few years, then it just will never happen. Because they're being questioned. The whispers have turned into outright yells. To get in front of a microphone and say that is wild. Especially a player who, is not exactly like an all pro. And that's not even really a shot at or shade at Justin Jones, who's like a solid player. He's a solid player. But like, can you just imagine, like, think of this as if a Packer player, if like John Runyon were like, yeah, Aaron Donald, we're not afraid of him. In fact, I want to see him again. Forget that guy. We own him. That would be weird, right? That'd be weird. You'd be going, you sure? You sure? Like, it's one thing if like Khalil Mack in 2018 is like, nah, I want to see Aaron Rodgers again. Yeah, okay, cool. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. If you want to bluster, you better be in a position to back that bluster up. And again, no shade to this guy. But is he going to come out against Jordan Love and have 4 sacks and just like dominate the game? And be like, yeah. If you were Aaron Rodgers, I would have done this too. Probably not. Elgton Jenkins is going to lock this man up. So the whole thing is weird. But again, it is evidence of what is going on out there. This is like you're pick your favorite of the Machiavellian dramas over the years. And right now, they're sowing dissent in the streets. That's what's happening. The forces of the people are massing against the ruler. And they've decided he's weak. I'm not for a monarchical structure of power. But it is, in this case, up to the king, the Packers, to show they are still strong. But they also have to still be strong in order to show that strength. It starts week 1. And guess what? It's against the Bears. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we have more on the Packers, on OTAs. I wrote about this issue of The Throne for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me there. Get the newsletter. That'd be great. But also on Locked On Sports Today, all the biggest stories in under 20 minutes. If you like sports, Locked On Sports Today is 100% for you. Go check it out. Last thing I want to bring up here. Adrian Amos going to New York. And I thought it was a long shot always for him to be back in Green Bay. But at this point, I'm kind of wondering what's going on. Like, you just don't have the bodies at safety. John Johnson III is sitting out there. Just go sign him. Like, what is the deal? I don't understand it. Like, Eric Stokes back, not practicing, but in a uniform, out there stretching, hanging out with the guys. He seems to be making progress. If he can be out there for training camp, hell yeah. And you roll with this elite cornerback group. You're really going to roll out maybe the best 1, 2, 3 corner group in the league with Darnell Savage and, like, I don't even know. Like, why? When you could sign someone who's a starting caliber safety in the league. Now, he has to want to come. I get all that stuff. It makes perfect sense. It's a position of need. And as we talked about earlier this week, it's not a spot where you have like invested in draft picks and young players that you're stunting their growth. You don't have anybody. Bring him in, again, assuming he wants to come. That's an assumption. And go from there. I don't understand why you wouldn't do it. I just don't. So we'll see if it's a move they actually make. I just don't know why it hasn't already happened. But I've been screaming about this with safeties in June. Like, this is an annual tradition. Now, every dayers will remember, like 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. I've been in this like every year. They need another safety. They need another safety. And that was when they needed a third safety. Now they need a second safety. And maybe they need one. Like Darnell Savage, it sounds like, a lot was going on in his life last year. Affected his play potentially. Matt LaFleur hinted at that when he was talking about, hey, we never know what's going on, or fans on the outside never know what's going on in someone's life. And we don't. It's true. I hope he balls out this year. I don't know why they haven't done more to address this position, and I think it would be smart for them to do it. So we'll see if they do. All right, back tomorrow. More on the Green Bay Packers. It's a fun part of the offseason. It really is. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live on our YouTube page, you can do that. Go subscribe on YouTube so you can stay Locked On Packers.